man, reading a UFO story which I've changed a little bit. I got all my papers in front of me, but I think I need some kind of office desk. Chapter 1, UFO. It came out of the night sky like a shard of glass piercing the darkness, fast as a meteor but silent as a spear. A group of tramps below scratched their heads as they drank their whiskey, momentarily puzzled, then returning to their drink. It swept past offices and skyscrapers before turning suddenly and shooting straight past Big Ben before the seconds ticked. It was a brilliant photo opportunity missed by the sleeping population. It then shot off at incredible speed before stopping in midair and then landing in a sea of glowing green lights on the crisp, damp grass of Hyde Park. It was 4 a.m. and there was no one about, and one of the most momentous days of mankind was being observed by the occasional squirrel. The craft changed from black to silver to completely translucent. A large oak trees behind were visible to all purposes. It wasn't there. An hour later, Simon set off on his paper round as usual. He decided to take a short cut through Hyde Park. Chapter 2. He was 11 years old and he was a loner and a dreamer. His paper round gave him just enough money to buy the books and magazines. Oh my god, I'll just change a page. It's so hard to change a page. He loved to read and escape into Roald Dahl and H.G. Wells and Stephen King if he was feeling brave. He disliked school and he enjoyed his freedom which his paper round gave him. He always cut across the park unless it was raining. He hated mud, he loved being clean and tidy. He didn't think they would thank him at school if he brought a load of mud in with him. He arrived at the park early as he had whizzed round his paper round. He liked to treat it like a sports exercise and to see how quickly he could finish. The sun was coming up and the beautiful oak trees were bathed in crisp light as the morning rolled in. He walked briskly across the park, his Adidas trainers keeping him buoyant, as if he was on a newly laid carpet. His bag felt light with all of the papers delivered quickly. He then saw a battered tennis ball on the ground and he picked it up, and he bounced it in front of him as he bobbed along. This is a great morning, he thought. He threw the ball at the old oak tree, which was 50 yards in front of him, aiming for the centre. To his amazement, it bounced back again. It picked it up and threw it, half in shock, and again it bounced back with a slight thud. This was amazing, he thought, and he walked up to where the ball had hit, and he saw nothing, but he felt a strange energy crackling like static. Closer and closer he crept until his nose touched a warm solid object like glass. He jumped back and then he reached his hand out and he touched it with his outstretched fingers. He could feel the quietly pulsing energy flood his fingers. Initially it filled with colour, smoky grey and then silver and then pitch black. To his amazement it was an alien spaceship, a UFO. He had some interest in extraterrestrials and he had read quite a few books about them, but he wasn't sure if they were real. A lot of them were government projects, he thought, but this was the real deal, a real UFO in London. It was lucky that there was no one about, he thought, and just then, in an instant, it changed back again, and he felt honoured to be the only witness. He didn't see any little green men, but any colour would have been okay. Despite this momentous discovery, he knew he still had to get to school. All through the lessons he could think of nothing else but the UFO. The hours went by so slowly and it was torture. He thought of telling someone, but he knew that no one would believe him, and he didn't want to be made fun of. At last the school bell rang and he ran as fast as possible to the park. It was about half a mile away, and when he got there, his shirt was drenched with sweat and he was panting heavily. He saw the tennis ball on the ground and he looked around to see if anyone was watching. Then he walked towards the invisible craft. This time there was no thud, it just was not there. He knelt on the grass with tears in his eyes. "Where are you?" he cried. It should have been there, but it wasn't. He walked on with his head down. He knew no one would believe him, but now he almost didn't believe himself. That night he lay in bed and he stared at the ceiling. He could see the stars through his window, and he wondered which star it may have returned to. He was the only person on Earth who knew there was life on other planets for real. No one else had a clue. Just then he saw a star twinkle in the sky, and then it appeared to move. Suddenly it shot across the sky like a meteor and then disappeared. "Hello, thank you." Then it reappeared like a flashing light, and he knew it was back. A smile spread across his face, and he watched it get further and further away. And then boom, it zapped out of view at mind-boggling speed. Simon crawled into bed, and he slept so soundly and so deeply that not even little green men tapping at his window would have been able to wake him. Hope you like that story, which is on Amazon KDP. I hope I read it okay. Thank you. Please, Raging Rhino, please sub me.